Hello, my name is Alex Porpora, and I'm a curriculum specialist with the National Association of Conservation Districts. Today, I'm going to share with you an exciting new resource, which is the Pollinator Field Day Curriculum Guide. This guide, which is free to download and use, contains a variety of activities and lesson plans to help learners in K through 8th grade understand the importance of pollinators to the environment. Here's what you can find inside the guide. Contained within are a number of resources, including a detailed introduction, information on how to plan and implement a field day, pre and post lessons that are divided into grade bands, so K2, 3, 5, and 6 through 8, stations for Pollinator Field Day, fun supplementary content, extension activities, so a way to continue your learning after an event, and a ton of content in our appendices, including some really great resources that are free to access. So here's what you can find inside. In the introduction, you'll find information on what a pollinator field day is. And this is essentially a day for learners to understand about pollinators. This type of field day, it might be similar to a water conservation or learning day that you have in your state where students come and experience stations. The pollinator field day that we've set up is very similar to that, with a number of stations and ideas for you to connect learners to pollinators, to reach out to individuals in your communities as well. The best part about this guide is while there's activities and a lot of structure for a pollinator field day, you can use it however you like. You can pick and choose lessons or use the activities a la carte. You can also find some information about what is a conservation district and who is the National Association of Conservation Districts. This is really great information to have because we are strongly encouraging anyone who uses this guide or sets up a pollinator field day to make some connections in your community and introduce youth to individuals who have a career in the field of conservation. There's some really great information on how you can use this guide, so some of that information I shared earlier, and some correlation to education standards. All of our lesson plans are aligned to the next generation science standards and to Common Core standards. While standards in your state may be different than next generation science standards or Common Core, this helps to lay a groundwork and may help you find those connections to the standards that exist in your state. They also align to the North American Association for Environmental Education Guidelines for Excellence for K through 12 learners. All of these activities align really well with STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, but are highly interdisciplinary. You'll notice a lot of connections to the arts and English language arts. So it's a really great way to expose the youth that you work with, whether they are in a classroom or an informal setting like a nature center, youth group, or a scout group. To different concepts, so not just STEM, but a lot of really great interdisciplinary connections. Within that introduction are detailed instructions on how to plan and implement a field day. We have tried to take the mystery out of planning an event. We know that many of you are pretty busy working with different groups. Education may not be the first job at your site, so we wanted to make sure that we took a little bit of the mystery out and made it a little bit easier for you. Inside you'll find some information on how to plan ahead of your event, how to make those connections with your conservation district, your state natural resource agency, natural resource conservation service, and other partners. Partners are really great when setting up an activity like this. They allow you to make connections with your community, and they introduce you to individuals who have careers in the field of conservation. It's always really great, I think, to introduce youth to the variety of career options that are available to them. We've also included a fair amount of detail regarding organization and setup, day of event, and backup planning. Within that organization setup, we've included logistics, navigating and dealing with location. This guide is really set up to be at any location, whether you have a nature center, a parking lot, a gymnasium, a church at your disposal. What you can do is really use this guide to set up an event that works with the site that you're in and the individuals that you're working with. We've included some tools on building community relationships, including some model letters and templates that you can send out for outreach to make that a little bit easier for you, and some tips and tricks for training facilitators who will be facilitating your field day stations if you're going to have a full-on field day. We've included a lot of tips for day of event and how to deal with scenarios that you may run into along the way. So if you're having an outdoor event and you're having some inclement weather, if all your volunteers don't show up, we've included some troubleshooting tips in there to hopefully make your field day run as smoothly as possible. So we've also included a handful of pre-field day and post-field day lessons. Now these lessons can be used in conjunction with a field day, or they can stand alone. They're aligned to 3 different grade bands, so K2, 3, 5, and 6 through 8, but they can certainly be adapted for use for a variety of ages and settings. So be sure to take a look and see if that content might align to the grade that you're in, even if it's from a different grade. So here's how we have aligned the content in these lessons. So we've used the 5 E's model. So within this lesson, students will engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, and extend. You'll also find that alignment to the next generation science standards are at the beginning, the time for each of those lessons, and the materials that you'll need. We've tried to make these materials as easily accessible as possible with each of the lesson plans. If there are things that needed to be printed out, they're provided for you in a PDF, and we've also included the list of items that you may need. We've included some background information for the lesson as well. So students will engage in this activity with you, the educator, leading them through it. However, it's important to note that a lot of these activities are designed for the educator to be more of that facilitator. The students are really asking the questions and driving the learning. It's meant to be student-centered and hands-on, and all of the lesson plans and activities are designed in this way. So when I mentioned that extend, those are those additional resources and ways to continue. We've tried to build some lessons that are really connect to things happening in the real world, might provide some continued connections to things happening in your community. And on this page is an example of one of the PDFs that students can use. So after our suite of pre-lessons, you'll get to the Pollinator Field Day stations. So there are a number of Pollinator Field Day stations that can be used in a mix and match setting. You can use all of them, you can use a few of them, you could even use them as standalone activities if you're not planning on hosting a Pollinator Field Day. Again, each of these stations is designed so that they're student-centered and hands-on. So individuals who are facilitating these stations will really be guiding those learners. You may have participated in an event of this type at your state where students come to a table and they're kind of talked at for a few minutes and then they move on. And we've tried to ensure that at each of these stations, students are engaged, they're participating, they're asking questions, the facilitator is guiding their learning through questions, and we've added all those as well. We've included some additional station ideas too. So if you're having a really large day and need an additional station to accommodate the number of youth that will be attending, we've got some additional ideas. It's also helpful if some stations are running short on time and you have some other stations waiting to have some of those additional ideas in your back pocket. Just like all of the lesson plans, each of these field day stations includes a list of materials, background information, and some questions that the facilitator can ask students to evaluate their learning. We've also, again, tried to make these stations as simple and accessible as possible with materials that you can easily source at the grocery store, at a place like Walmart or Target, or even on Amazon, just so that anybody can participate. There's a really low barrier to entry. Then we have a number of post-field day lessons. Again, these can be done after a pollinator field day to support and extend the learning that students have engaged in, or just as an additional standalone activity. They are really meant to evaluate some of the student learning during that pollinator field day and to hopefully extend some of the things they've learned as well. While there are some connections to next generation science standards, this is where you'll see a lot more of those interdisciplinary connections, both reflecting on the field day and communicating about that field day experience with others. So here's one example. This is the 3 through 5 lesson plan, where students actually work to create and share an article about their pollinator field day experience. And students could even do something like create a short newspaper or newsletter about their experience and that they can share with their peers, with their parents and guardians and other people in the community. Just like those pre-lessons, these are aligned to engage, explore, explain, extend, and evaluate. In addition to that, we've included some supplementary content. You'll be able to find a crossword puzzle, a spelling challenge, a word search, and some additional coloring pages. Those are also provided as PDFs that are free to download and print. So let's say you had the most amazing field day ever and want to extend your learning. We've included a number of extension activities to continue your learning about pollinators. Some of those examples include planning a pollinator garden, participating in a citizen or community science project where the students or youth you work with can help to collect data to support real scientific research, field trips to sites in your area, maybe a nature center, a farm, somewhere where individuals and the youth you work with can see pollination in action or learn more about careers related to conservation. And then building some additional habitats to support our pollinators, like building bat boxes or bee homes. In the appendices are a handful of sample letters. We know that all of you are very busy, so we've tried to make this as simple as possible for you to implement at your site. We've included a sample letter that you can send to parents and guardians to notify them about an upcoming pollinator field day, a sample letter to send to a community group to assist you in your outreach efforts, vocabulary, and resources. So how can you access this guide? You'll want to visit the NACD Conservation Education Hub at this website, and you can download this guide for free. So it makes it a really great and accessible resource that's available for you online. We thank you so very much for choosing to use this curriculum, and we can't wait to hear about your incredible pollinator field day experiences. If you have any questions, please reach out to stewardship@nacdnet.org. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have fun learning about pollinators.